What's up, peeps? I wanted to do an update on the right to travel um, on a public highway. It gives you the constitutional right to do so. I don't speak words. I don't speak air. Today I had to go to court. Today I won in court. Right there. Everything was dismissed. I did it quick so you can zoom in and whatnot. Uh, I spent about 7 hours last night, procrastinator, and I wrote up a motion. Now, a lot of people got this gist that you have no jurisdiction, you have no jurisdiction. Well, they do have jurisdiction. In interstate commerce and whatnot, and in good faith they pulled you under in the belief that you might be. Even though we all know that's a crock of shit. So instead of filing a motion for dismissal for lack of production, what I did today is I filed a motion for dismissal for lack of jurisdiction over this person. You got no jurisdiction over this person. I come to learn last night, after all these years of studying law, that there is one book out there that is more important than any book in the world for us in the United States, and that's called the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights. That shall not be infringed or impeded. Period. That's why I won. I have a right to life, liberty, and happiness. Pursuit of happiness. And that's already been ruled, decided by the United States Supreme Court, that I do have that right to travel in an automobile, on a public road, on a public highway, motor conveyance or automobile. Those are the words, legal words that the United States Supreme Court uses. You gotta remember, folks, they call it public highway for a reason. It ain't just highway, it's public highway. You don't get charged for the use of a public place. Only if you're acting in interstate commerce or making gain by way of highway. Don't want to go into too much about this and that and that and this, but you all got to understand that your Constitution of America and your Bill of Rights give you power. The people, we the people. And when you speak up on that, they have to oblige you. They don't have a choice. But yes, I beat $980 worth of tickets today with a motion for dismiss for lack of jurisdiction over this person, which would be me. Not a simple dismiss for lack of jurisdiction, because they do have jurisdiction. You got to prove why they don't have jurisdiction. You got to state why they don't have jurisdiction. They don't have jurisdiction because of why. Because they don't have jurisdiction over this person. And then you back that up with law. And like I said, $980 worth of tickets for no insurance, no helmet, driving on a sidewalk, and there was another one too. And I needed SR22 until 2001, they said. Well, I don't need none of that stuff no more, peeps. Oh, yeah, I don't. Oh, it's a little nippy because I got a little. It's a little nippy, anyways. Let me put this thing. Oh, there we go. So, yeah, remember, folks, it ain't no joke. The court accepted it today. Traffic court's a little different than criminal court. But you're still being processed in a criminal court environment, which is really ridiculous. But I got my appeal already for the next two, because I got 2 more DLSs. But now they're going to have to shoot them out because this was dismissed, and it doesn't matter. It was dismissed. It should have never been brought upon. So I don't know exactly what they're going to plan on doing, but I know they're going to have to Some do judicial burial, this and that, but I don't want their license. I don't act in interstate commerce. I am good with that. I don't want to make this too long, folks and peeps, because I know how you guys are. You don't like long shit, but let me read this quickly, and hopefully you understand what's going on and get the gist of what's going on here. I ain't got much time because I got to pick the wife up for dialysis. But anyways, I filed this. Oh, wait a minute. Where is it? Okay. No, it's only 2 pages. I just got to find it here. Okay. 2 pages, folks. 2 pages will say the difference being extorted for revenue or exercising your guaranteed constitutional rights. Now comes the accused me, appearing especially and not generally or voluntarily but under threats of arrest or consequence if he fails to do so. With this motion in support of notice for dismissal for lack of jurisdiction over this person, in that the brief that accompanies this motion stating as follows. There is no injured parties to said alleged offense. The defendant has the right under due process to confront his accuser. The state fails to present accuser to the alleged offense. The accused did not commit a crime. The accused acted with the law by way of public highway. The accused acted within the right of the United States Supreme Court of America and the Constitution of America give him the right to do. The accused do not meet the description or license, driver, or requirement. The accused was not acting in commerce. The accused was not making the public highway a place of gain. The accused was not for hire. Every statute put into place to aid in license requirements through DMV is for interstate commerce only. The state cannot state a claim which relief can be granted. Willfulness is the major one here. Willfulness. Please see the following brief in support of motion dismissed for lack of jurisdiction over this person. Brief in support of motion dismissed. Let's turn it over because, I'm cheap and I ain't got a fax and all this other crap. And such a basic right does not even need to be mentioned. For it is self-evident by common sense that the right to travel is a basic commitment, concomitant of a free society to come and go from length and breathe freely, encumbered and unfettered. Distinguishes the characteristic required for free people to exist in fact. Please Shapiro versus Thompson. Further, right to travel by private conveyance for private purpose upon the common way cannot be infringed. No license or permission is required for travel when such travel is not for the purpose of commercial profit or gain. On the open highway operating under license and commerce. The above named common law citizen listed is not operating in commerce and as such is thereby exempted from the requirements of a license. As such, further, the Vermont state is forbidden by law from converting a basic right into a privilege and requiring a license and a fee or charge for the exercise of a basic right. Please see Murdoch versus Pennsylvania. Anyways, folks, I can go on and I can go on, but I'll go on and read a little more. So further, the Vermont state is forbidden. Well, let me back up a little bit so you guys really understand this. It doesn't even need to be mentioned, for it is self-evident by common sense that the right to travel is a basic concomitant of a free society to come and go from length and breathe freely, encumbered and unfettered, distinguishing the characteristic required for free people to exist in fact. Please see Shapiro versus Thompson, 349 U.S. 618. Further, the right to travel by private conveyance, which would be an automobile, for private purposes upon the common way cannot be infringed. Can't be infringed. You can't touch it. No license or permission is required for travel when such travel is not for the purpose of commercial or profit or gain on the open highway operating under license and commerce. The above named common law citizen listed is not operating in commerce and as such is thereby exempt from the requirement of a license. As such, further, Vermont state is forbidden by law from converting a basic right into a privilege and requiring a license and or a fee charged for the exercise of the basic right. Please see Murdoch versus Pennsylvania 319, Nether United States 105. In Vermont, state does erroneously convert basic rights into privileges and requires a license or fee. A citizen may ignore the license or fee with total immunity for such a basic right. Please see Shuttleworth versus Birmingham, Alabama 373 U.S. 262. Now, if a citizen exercises a basic right in any law of any state is to the contrary of such exercise of the basic right, the said supposed law of any state is fictitious of law and 100% totally unconstitutional. And no citizen is required to obey such unconstitutional law or license requirements. Please see Mayberry versus Madison. And that's one of the leading cases, folks, that allows us to do what we're doing. 5 U.S. 137, 1803, which hasn't been overturned in 194 years, peeps. Which has never been overturned in 194 years. Now, further, if a citizen relies on a decision of the United States Supreme Court, which is the law of the land, they make a ruling, that's it. You have to abide. That is the constitutional law. That a citizen has a perfect defense through the element of willfulness. Now, you got to understand what willfulness is, peeps. Willfulness is willingly, knowingly breaking a statute and whatnot. But you can't willingly do that if the Constitution is already set in place that allows you to do that. So one of the major elements in any offense, criminal, traffic, is willfulness. You have to prove willfulness. And if the Constitution is backing you up, which is the First Amendment is for traveling, and that's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the United States Supreme Court has ruled that you have a right to travel in an automobile on a public highway doing your personal agenda as long as you're not acting in interstate commerce. They have ruled. It's set in stone. Period, folks. Okay, let me go on. And since the burden of proof of said willfulness is on the prosecutor to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, said task or burden being totally impossible to specifically perform, there is no cause of action for which relief may be granted by the court of law. Meaning they don't have no jurisdiction over this person to where they can ask for a fucking cause for relief. Because I haven't done nothing. I haven't broke any laws. I have gone by the Constitution and the Supreme Court ruling. Therefore, I'm immune to any prosecution. That's the law, peeps. Look it up. Perfect defense to the element of willfulness, and since the burden of proof falls on the prosecution to prove said task burden is being totally impossible to physically perform, there is no cause of action for which relief may be granted by the court of law. Please see another United States Supreme Court ruling, U.S. versus Bishop, 412 U.S. 346. I kind of break that down in my other section of what the cases mean and how they apply to you. The payment for a privilege requires a benefit to be received as the right to travel is already secured. It is clearly unlawful to cite any charge without direct damage to Pacific Party, which would be me. So when you pull me over and you find out I'm not acting in interstate commerce and you still try to extort me for revenue and impede my freedom of movement that is guaranteed, would your Ponzi scheme DMV, who's politically motivated, it's a political entity is what DMV is, a political entity for monetized gain to regulate license for interstate commerce only. The payment, okay, and I said that. Okay, so the payment for a privilege required benefit to receive as the right to travel is already secured. It is clearly unlawful to cite any charge without direct damage to Pacific Party, which would be you or me. Nor may a citizen be charged with an offense for exercise of a constitutional right. In this case, right to travel. Please see Miller versus United States 230 F2D, which is a federal case. 486. Nor may a citizen be denied due process of the law or equal protection under the law, which would also be your Fifth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. Equal protection of the law. It ain't just you have the right to shut the fuck up. You have the right to the equal protection. And that equal protection is called the book. The book is called the United States Constitution of America. The strongest book out there ever, peeps. If I have ever given anybody good advice and the best advice ever out there, it is to get that United States of America and the Bill of Rights and read it. That's the law they have to go by, and they cannot distinguish it. And I break it down in another section later on, the case law and everything else, and how they can't do that. So you have an understanding. Okay. The undersigned has never willingly and knowingly entered into any contract or contractual agreement giving up any constitutional rights. Even though I got a license, I didn't agree to give up any rights. Never signed anything like that, so they're still protected. Which are secured by the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. This common law citizen has not harmed any party, has not threatened or caused any endangerment to the safety or well-being, or their strict proof otherwise in the court of law. The above-named citizen is merely exercising the basic right to do. Please see Zobel versus William, 457 U.S., another Supreme Court, 55. How the right to travel is a constitutional right. Now, let me repeat that, folks. Please see Zobel versus Williams, 457 U.S. 55. States specifically. And it held the right to travel is a constitutional right. And the court's already broken down what the definition of a travel is. And a modern conveyance or an automobile. The most sacred of liberties of what Justice Thomas spoke of was personal liberty. The definition of personal liberty is personal liberty or the right to enjoyment of life and liberty and one of the fundamental or natural rights which has been protected by its conclusion as a guarantee in the various constitutions which not deprived from or dependent on the U.S. Constitution, which may not be subjected to a vote and may not depend on the outcome of an election. It is set in stone. You can't change it. Period. It is one of the most sacred and most valuable rights, as sacred as the right to private property. And it is regarded as inalienable. You can't take it, you can't touch it. Get the fuck off my back, pig. Okay, we're almost done because we're really getting into the interesting part. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about 16 CGAS Constitutional Law, Section 202, page 587. Personal liberty largely consists of the right of locomotion. Now remember, this is constitutional law that I am reading to you. You can't touch it. Personal liberty largely consists of the right of locomotion, to go where and when one pleases, only so far restrained as the right of others may make it necessary for the welfare of all citizens, the right of the citizen to travel upon the public highway and to transport his property therein by horse-drawn carriage, wagon, or, funny, automobile. Is not a mere privilege which may be permitted or prohibited at will, but the common right which he has under his right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is your First Amendment Constitution, folks. Read it. Under this constitutional guarantee, one may therefore, under normal conditions, travel at his inclination along the public highway or in public places, and while conducting himself in an orderly and decent manner, of course. neither interfere with nor disturb another's right. He will be protected, equal protection of the law, folks. Not only in his persons, don't trespass on his person, motherfucker, but in his safe conduct. Second, A.M. Judah, I forget exactly how to pronounce it, but it's right here. I got it on this other one. It's called Judeprudence. Okay, so let's go on. That'll be another thing. But the claim and the exercise of a constitutional right. The claim and exercise of a constitutional right cannot be converted into a crime. Miller versus U.S. 230 F 486 489. Now that's a federal case. Can't be touched. And there can be no sanction or penalty imposed upon one because of the exercise of a constitutional right. We've already established you do have the right under the First Amendment to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And that's already been ruled on. The use of the highway for the personal travel and transportation is not a mere privilege, but a common and fundamental right of which the public and the individual cannot be rightfully deprived. You look at Chicago Motor Coach versus Chicago 169 NE 22. And there's a few cases. Jurisprudence. A.M. Jurisprudence also, which is the constitutional law. And it speaks of right here, highway section, A.M. Jurisprudence, first, highway section 163. The right of the citizen to travel upon the public highway and to transfer his property therein, either by horse-drawn carriage or by automobile, is not a mere privilege which a city can prohibit or permit at will, but a common right which he has under the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thompson versus Smith, a very important case. 154 SC 579. It is another Supreme Court ruling case right there. The right of the citizen to travel upon the public highway, and you really got to punch it into these uneducated public servants who are trying to exercise the right. And I mean, I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to get paid every week by taking my money. The right of the citizen to travel upon the public highway and to transfer his property therein is in the ordinary course of life and business is a common right. Constitution, common, color of law. That's how it goes, folks. Commons over color of law, which are your statutes. Statutes are color of law. Okay, so the right of the citizen to travel upon the public highway and to transfer his property thereof in the ordinance course of life and business, and a common right which has under the right to enjoy life and liberty. And we've already established your First Amendment is your life and liberty. To acquire and possess property and to pursue happiness and safety. It includes the right in doing to use the ordinary and usual conveyance of the day and under the existing modes of travel. Automobile, it's been ruled, it's already been decided. We've already established that. Includes the right to drive a horse-drawn carriage or wagon there or to operate. I don't use operate, I use travel, but the legal term is to operate an automobile thereon. For the usual and ordinary purpose of life and business. You can either travel or you can make money. You know, what do you want to do? There is a clear distinguish between an automobile and a motor vehicle. An automobile has been defined as, the word automobile connotes a pleasure vehicle designed for the transportation of a person on highway. But we use public highway because that's why public's there. You don't get charged for public. The distinction is made very clear in Title 18 U.S.C. 31. Now you got to understand, United States Code is the law. Okay? Everything derives from the Constitution. So when the United States Supreme Court makes a ruling, they're making a ruling on a constitutional basis. Okay? And then all these laws are put into place based on that. Sometimes you got to fight for your right. Okay, the power police, or the police power of the state, must exercise its subordination to the provision of the Constitution of America. And then there's another case citing. Since the state requires that one give up a right in order to exercise the privilege of driving, the regulation cannot stand under the police power due process or regulation, but must be exposed as a statute which is oppressive and one which has misapplied to deprive the citizen of a right guaranteed by the United States Constitution and the state constitution. Conversion of a right to a crime. So we've already established, folks, by case law, by United States Supreme Court ruling that cannot be changed, that you cannot convert a basic right, which is your Constitution, the First Amendment, and so on, into a crime or revenue. You just can't do it. You have to speak up. You got to get it out. Don't be scared. Even if you're a girl, get some of these. Get it out. Speak up. Once you speak up, they got to hear it. Conversion of a right. The citizen has a right to travel and to transfer his property upon the public highway in the ordinary course of life and business. However, if one exercises his right to travel without first giving up the right, that means getting a license, and converting that right into a privilege, the citizen is by statute guilty of a crime. Remember, statute, color of law. This amounts to converting the exercise of a constitutional right into a crime. You can't do it. Miller versus another United States Supreme Court ruling. Miller versus U.S. and Sneer versus Cohen. The state cannot diminish rights of the people. Hurtado versus California, 110 U.S. 51, another Supreme Court ruling you can't change. So anyways, folks, that's my motion. And because of this motion is what I believe they didn't want to deal with. And they even stated it in my docket, motion mute, because judge didn't hear it. They don't want to hear your constitutional rights. They don't want to deal with it because, you know what? The judge swore to an affirmation, swore to uphold the Constitution. I come to realize last night that them judgments need to be in favor of you, us, we the people. That's their job, and you have to hold them accountable. That you listen, Your Honor, you have to make judgment in favor of me. I am the beneficiary. I am the injured party. I am the beneficiary of the contract. The Constitution of the United States of America is a contract that you swore to protect and uphold. I'm not going to let you violate that. You're not going to tread on that. And if you do, I am going to hold you accountable on a 42-1983 tort claim. And 18 United States Code 241-242, peeps, look it up. Place in there, it's put in there for people like us. 2 or more who deprives you of your constitutional rights or deprives you of your constitutional rights can be held accountable on their persons, on them, in a tort claim, let alone on their professional capacity. The state going to pay me, and then I'm going to dip in his bank account. And if he keeps on pissing me off, I'm going to dip into his old lady's bank account. Because that's how the law works. Now, I know I'm a little dramatic, but I want everybody to understand when I make these videos that what I talk about, I know what I'm talking about, and I have the proof. Comment. You got something going on? I'll try to do my best to answer it. But the best advice I can give anybody is get a copy of the Constitution of America and the Bill of Rights and read it. It's pretty self-explanatory. Tells you what they can and can't do and what your rights are. Period. You can't change it. You can't alter it. You can't diminish it. And if you know your rights and you speak up, then you can exercise those rights that you have and travel down a public highway without no plates, without no license, without no fucking sticker, because the court has already ruled. The United States, the highest court of the land, which you can't change, saying that it is constitutional. It's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, which is your First Amendment. And then your Fifth Amendment protects you in equal protection of the law. That means it protects you for your First Amendment and any other amendments you have or constitutional rights. That's how it is, peeps. Remember, if you get detained, am I free to go or am I being detained or am I free to go? If you're being detained, you're in a custodial arrest, you shut your fucking mouth until you get a lawyer. Educate yourself. You want to challenge? You want to do that kind of shit like I do? I'm not trying to challenge, but when I'm doing my activity and they impede my freedom of movement, somebody's going to pay for that. That can be held in a legal court. You're going to pay for it. You can't. You're not going to violate. No, not this American. You're not going to violate my constitutional rights and think you're going to get away with it. You can be held accountable. And it ain't going to be all, well, we did this because of good faith. Your good faith is shit. Already two Supreme Court rulings saying, hey, that ain't no argument. You're mine. You violate my rights, you're mine. You owe me. And I ain't cheap. And I already told him, $50,000 an hour, minimum 10 hours. $15,000 an hour until the case is done. He's all for what? For violating my constitutional rights. My time and violating my constitutional rights. My civil rights. You need to be held accountable. You can't do that. Simple as that, folks. Know your rights. Know your Constitution. I'm still learning. Don't get me wrong. There's so much more I need to learn and I can learn. But I'm going to direct you to the best video I've ever seen. He's called Carl Miller on YouTube. He's got all kinds of videos. They're only like 9-14 minutes a pop. But there's 11 series of them. And then there's a whole nother series about traveling and how they can't do that. The series I watched last night was all about the Constitution and how they can't do what they're doing to me. And apparently, I believe that by my education, or shall I say, me educating myself on what I see on actual law and researching it, I believe by this motion today, they didn't even want to hear it. They didn't want to fuck with it. They didn't even want a constitutional jurisprudence even being heard, which is the constitutional law. Okay? There's just so much, folks, but I got to go. And you know what? Y'all be safe. Just remember, as soon as you get pulled over, you turn that fucking phone right on. You lock your doors. You keep your window down that much. Give a fuck they can hear or not. You yell it out. Am I being detained or am I free to go? They tell you being detained, you're on a custodial arrest no matter what they say. Period. That's law. Therefore, you don't say nothing. You don't get off your fucking documentations. You're protected in that in the Fourth Amendment. Why would you get off your documents to this dude when you're not even breaking a crime? You're not committing a crime. You're not breaking crime. Therefore, he has no obligation, no right whatsoever to get that documentation. If you want my documentation, you need to get it by way of a search warrant, because the only way you can get it for a search warrant is if you committed a crime. Traffic violation is not a crime. Period. Okay, folks, I'll catch up with you later on my second version. Sorry it was so long. I hope I didn't lose you all. Please educate yourself and get the book of the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights. Peace.